You notice it first in small betrayals, the fine lines that linger longer than they used to after a late night, the hours it takes to recover from a stressful week, the stubborn weight around your middle that stayed even after you returned to the gym. The mirror tells its quiet truth, and so does the bathroom scale. But more than skin and pounds, you feel the clock in your bones, the quickened breath on an anxious morning, the scattered sleep that never seems to repair you, the moments when your mind slips over a name and doesn't catch it. This is not mere vanity. This is biology responding to pressure. And for women, that response carries a particular pattern. Stress, repeated or chronic, can accelerate the processes we think of as aging. Imagine your body as a workshop where maintenance and construction must balance constantly. Stress is the alarm that keeps going off. Each time it sounds, workers drop what they're doing and run to fix the perceived danger. If the alarm rings occasionally, repairs are quick and the workshop stays in order. If it rings all the time, the repair crew never finishes anything, supplies run low, and the machines, your cells, begin to wear out sooner. You can feel this in sleep that does not restore, in energy that does not rebuild, in mood that frays at the edges. Understanding how that alarm works, the neuroendocrine circuitry, the immune reactions, the cellular wear and tear, gives you leverage. You are not merely a passive passenger on this ride. You sit in a sun-warmed clinic room, the antiseptic tang beneath the brightness. Across from you, Dr. Nguyen folds together test results with calm hands. Chronic stress changes how hormones talk to each other, she says. It's not mysterious. The hypothalamus hears a threat, the adrenal glands pour out cortisol, and over time, the repeated messaging rewires cells in ways that resemble accelerated aging. You picture the hypothalamus as a conductor and cortisol as a trumpet that plays too loud for too long. The music is no longer background, it rewrites the score. Cortisol is useful in the short term. It mobilizes energy, sharpens focus, readies you to act. But chronic elevation of cortisol changes the landscape. It shifts metabolism towards storing fat centrally, where visceral adipose tissue sits like an ember near vital organs. That tissue isn't inert. It secretes inflammatory signals that keep your immune system simmering. Low-grade inflammation, persistent and unrelenting, becomes a slow corroding agent. It accelerates the shortening of telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes that act like the plastic tips on shoelaces. When telomeres shorten faster, the cell's replicative lifespan shortens too, and tissues show signs of aging earlier. You read later in articles and interviews about telomeres in women who have endured prolonged caregiving or trauma. The pattern repeats. Stress correlates with shorter telomeres. Scientists use phrases like associations and may contribute because biology rarely speaks in guarantees. Still, the trend is clear. Stress-related pathways nudge the body towards cellular states we associate with older age. Beyond telomeres, stress reshapes the mitochondria, the tiny powerhouses in every cell that spin chemical energy into usable ATP. Under chronic stress, mitochondria become less efficient and more prone to leak reactive oxygen species, creating oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is the chemical rusting of cells. Lipids, proteins, and DNA accumulate oxidative damage, and repair systems struggle to keep pace. For women whose hormones modulate mitochondrial function, this interplay can be especially impactful. Estrogens, for example, tend to enhance mitochondrial efficiency and antioxidant defenses. When stress disrupts hormonal balance, during perimenopause, after childbirth, under chronic sleep debt, the protective signaling can wane, exposing cells to more wear. Think of estrogen as a tuning oil for the engine, Dr. Nguyen explains, tracing an invisible line in the air. When that oil is present and clean, the engine runs more smoothly. When stress and hormonal changes reduce that lubrication, the engine grinds more. Her metaphor sits with you because you have felt that grind during your late 30s and beyond. Fatigue that no caffeine fixes, skin that loses its earlier firmness, concentration that requires more effort. Stress affects the brain as well. The HPA axis, hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal, is the neuroendocrine highway for the stress response. Repeated activation reduces the brain's capacity to generate brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a protein critical for the survival and plasticity of neurons. Lower BDNF is associated with cognitive decline and slower recovery from mood disturbances. Imagine pruning the branches of a tree too often. The tree survives, but its canopy thins and it regrows differently. Cognitive aging can follow a similar script when stress suppresses the molecules that nourish neural connections. You argue once with your partner late into the night, words too sharp in the dark. The next day at work, you find your attention splintered. Later, you meet an old friend who jokes about your tired face. The comment stings not because you're vain, but because it reflects physical changes you sense inside. Skin thinning, slower healing, the dulling of elasticity. Cortisol also affects skin directly, breaking down collagen and reducing the structural integrity that keeps skin firm. Inflammatory cytokines and oxidative damage compound the effect. External signs are the visible ledger of internal stress. Sleep is one of the most tangible mediators between stress and aging. When stress shortens or fragments sleep, you lose essential windows for repair. During deep sleep, the brain clears metabolic waste. Hormones like growth hormones surge to promote tissue repair, and immune recalibration occurs. Chronic sleep loss sees these processes truncated. Over months, this contributes to insulin resistance, altered appetite regulation, and systemic inflammation, all drivers of age-related disease. For women juggling multiple roles, nighttime awakenings for caregiving or anxiety form repetitive breaches in restorative cycles. At a late-night coffee shop, a bitter drip, the steam making halos in the lamplit window, you confide in a friend about hormonal tests and a fogged memory. She listens and then says, softly, "Have you tried mindful breathing? Just 10 minutes. In the morning?" It's easy to dismiss such suggestions as quaint, but the physiology is persuasive. Slow diaphragmatic breathing stimulates the parasympathetic system, calms the HPA axis, reduces cortisol spikes, and over time can lower markers of inflammation. The practice does not reverse decades of stress by itself, but it's a simple lever you can pull daily to reduce the frequency of that alarm. Food matters too, though it's not a magic elixir. Diets rich in anti-inflammatory nutrients, polyunsaturated fats like omega-3s, colorful vegetables with antioxidants, fiber that feeds a healthy gut microbiome create an internal environment less hospitable to inflammatory signaling. The gut-brain axis is a two-way street. Stress alters gut motility, secretions, and microbial balance. In turn, a disrupted microbiome sends signals back to the brain that can worsen mood and stress reactivity. Fermented foods and prebiotic fibers help cultivate beneficial microbes that produce short-chain fatty acids, molecules linked to reduced inflammation and improved metabolic health. For women whose microbiomes can shift with hormones and life stages, tending to gut health can be a strategic part of slowing stress-driven aging. You recall a weekend retreat you took years ago. The air smelled of pine, and you woke to the sound of birds. For the first time in months, your chest felt calm. A short walk in the forest lowered your pulse without you trying. Nature's effect on stress hormones is not mystical. Studies have shown lower cortisol and reduced sympathetic nervous system tone after exposure to green spaces. The practice is accessible. A daily pocket of nature, your balcony with plants, a park bench, a street with trees, offers an effortless nudge against the stress cycle. Exercise, when framed correctly, is a potent repair signal. Strength training preserves muscle mass and bone density, both crucial as estrogen levels decline with age. Aerobic activity improves mitochondrial density and efficiency, enhances mood by increasing BDNF, and reduces visceral fat that fuels inflammation. However, in a stressed person, too much high-intensity training without adequate recovery can be another alarm bell. The key is consistency balanced with rest, moderate resistance work 2 to 3 times a week, brisk walks, and activities that you can sustain emotionally and physically. These patterns deliver cumulative benefits that resemble a slow but steady reset of your internal workshop. You think about supplements because they promise neat solutions, yet the reality is nuanced. Certain compounds, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D when deficient, and targeted antioxidants can support the pathways damaged by stress. But high doses, interactions, or the wrong choice for your health context can do harm. Always consult a health professional before starting anything significant. Think of supplements as tools you reach for with a map in hand, not a panacea you toss blindly into the mechanism. Social connections are often underestimated in discussions of aging. Loneliness is itself a stressor. Regular, meaningful contact lowers stress responsiveness, boosts immune function, and correlates with longer lifespans. For women whose social networks can be both a source of stress and support, pruning toxic relationships and nurturing reciprocal bonds matters. When you have people who see you, validate you, and help in practical ways, your body's alarm system hears fewer false threats. There is also the matter of timing. Life stages alter vulnerability. Pregnancy and postpartum periods come with dramatic hormonal shifts and unique stressors. Perimenopause brings fluctuating estrogen that intersects with stress signaling to produce outsized effects. You may find that the same stressors that felt manageable in your 20s feel different in your 40s. Recognizing that sensitivity is part of empowerment. Adjustments in sleep, nutrition, movement, and social supports can be tailored to the life stage you are in. At a neighborhood yoga studio, you meet Rosa, a woman in her late 50s whose skin glows and whose laughter is quick. "I started prioritizing recovery," she tells you after class, folding her mat. Small things, less caffeine after noon, a 10-minute walk after dinner, therapy every other week. Her regimen is modest, and yet she looks and moves in ways that testify to cumulative benefit. Her story is not exceptional because she has a secret. It is ordinary because she chose consistent, mundane actions over occasional miracles. The science behind her transformation is not glamorous. Lower cortisol load over months, improved sleep cycles, better metabolic markers, reduced inflammation. Those small daily choices act like a slow-acting internal sunscreen. Stress does not act alone. It accelerates the formation of advanced glycation end products, molecular crosslinks that stiffen proteins and tissues when combined with high-sugar diets and smoking. Glycation makes collagen stiffer and less elastic. It impairs cellular function and contributes to vascular aging. Avoiding excess sugar and processed food, moderating alcohol, and quitting smoking are among the most potent, evidence-backed ways to reduce multiple aging pathways at once. Each of these choices reverberates through hormone balance, inflammation, and oxidative stress. You start to craft a plan that feels realistic. It is not a dramatic overhaul, but a sequence of micro-commitments: consistent sleep with a wind-down routine, 30 minutes of movement most days, 2 servings of oily fish or omega-3 sources weekly, a daily portion of fiber-rich vegetables and fermented foods, 10 minutes of deliberate breathing, and at least 1 social interaction each day that feels nourishing. You keep a journal, not to chronicle every calorie, but to notice patterns: how your mood shifts with sleep, how your skin responds to late nights, how a brisk morning walk changes the day's curve of anxiety. Patterns are maps. They reveal where the alarms are most likely to ring. There will be setbacks. You learn that stress is not a moral failing. It is a signal that something in your life or environment requires attention. A promotion, a sick parent, financial strain, caregiving demands, these pressures are real and sometimes unavoidable. The strategy is to reduce their cumulative physiological footprint where possible and to build resilience so that unavoidable stressors cause less damage. Resilience is not invulnerability. It is the capacity to recover and to prevent temporary crises from becoming chronic. As weeks pass, you notice subtle shifts. Sleep deepens on nights when you practice breathing and limit evening screens. Your mood stabilizes after regular movement. Your skin regains a hint of firmness when you add consistent protein and vitamin-rich vegetables and scale back late-night sugar. There is no dramatic reversal of time. Aging is an accumulation, but the slope of decline has eased. Where once you felt the calendar constantly pressing on you, now there is room to move. You also learn to speak differently about your health. Where you used to ask, what quick fix will reverse this? You begin to ask, what small evidence-based choices can I repeat until they embed into habit? That linguistic shift mirrors a physiological one. Acute, frantic interventions are replaced by steady, repair-oriented practices. The workshop stops being ruled by alarms long enough to complete essential maintenance. A few months later, you return to Dr. Nguyen for follow-up. The conversation is quieter this time. We can't make you 20 again, she says, and you laugh because it's absurd. But we can reduce the pace at which your cells march toward decline. We're seeing improvements in markers tied to inflammation and sleep quality. That matters. Her honesty is precise and compassionate. It reframes the goal from miraculous reversal to meaningful slowing. That is both realistic and liberating. There are practical details that matter. Protect your skin from ultraviolet radiation with daily sun protection, not because it will erase every line, but because it reduces DNA damage and collagen breakdown. Prioritize protein intake at each meal to support repair and maintain lean mass. Choose movement you enjoy so that adherence is more likely. Seek therapy or counseling to address persistent anxiety or trauma. Psychological interventions can recalibrate the stress response and have measurable effects on biological markers. When you consider supplements, do so with a clinician who knows your history. All these steps are tools, each modest alone, effective as a coordinated kit. On an ordinary evening, you sit on your balcony with a cup of green tea. Its warmth filling you like a small ritual, and reflect on the changes. The tea is a ritual, not a cure. Its catechins are antioxidants that support cellular defense, but their effect unfolds cumulatively. Rituals matter because they structure time and create consistent behavioral anchors. They replace frantic reactivity with deliberate acts. That steadying is itself anti-aging. Stress accelerates female aging through a web of pathways: endocrine disruption, inflammation, oxidative damage, mitochondrial inefficiency, telomere shortening, disturbed sleep, and altered microbiome composition. Each pathway connects to behaviors and environments you can influence. The work is not instantaneous and it is not perfectible, but it is real. You are not doomed by past stress or a genetic predisposition. You can change the environment inside which your cells operate. You will meet days that feel like backsliding. When that happens, remember that aging is not a single trajectory, but a series of small slopes and plateaus. Adjust, return to basics, seek support, and sleep, movement, nutrition, social connection, stress reduction practices, and appropriate medical guidance. Over time, those choices add up into a life where your internal workshop has fewer false alarms, more finished repairs, and a steadier rhythm. Outside, the city hums, the distant thrum of traffic, a neighbor's laughter, the soft clink of a bicycle bell. You breathe in, an unremarkable act that, repeated, will keep the alarm from sounding so often. Inside your body, mechanisms realign in slow response. The lines on your face become maps of the life you lived rather than speed marks of damage. The work of aging continues. Your charge is to tilt its slope with steady, informed choices. There is more to explore. How sleep architecture shifts across reproductive stages, practical protocols to integrate stress reduction into a busy schedule, the role of targeted movement for bone health, and how to tailor nutrition across perimenopause and beyond. You are beginning a long conversation with your biology, and each step you take adjusts the terms of that conversation. For now, you close your journal, feeling neither triumphant nor defeated, only reliably present to the steady work ahead.